to the Get Up and Glow podcast. I'm your host, Madison Haynes, and today we are going to talk about something I wish I have heard or been able to watch on YouTube a long time ago, and that is what to expect when you're moving in with your boyfriend and how to navigate or avoid the roommate phase. So for those of you who do not know, the roommate phase is something that is being talked about a lot on TikTok, and that is where couples essentially face hardships when living together, where it becomes less of like a romantic love and it starts to feel like a little bit like you're living with a roommate, like a partner in life without the romance. And that is something I can honestly say every single couple will probably deal with at least once, but probably many times in their life. That's something I personally think is, it's almost like a roller coaster where you go in and out. So like the really, really good times and the times where life gets a little bit harder and it's a little bit more mundane, and it can be a challenge to balance real life and romance. And it's something that a lot of people don't talk about, and they don't talk about it to people who are about to move in with somebody for the first time. And looking back, I've almost lived with my partner or my boyfriend Zachary for about a year now, and this would have been really helpful for someone to tell me way before I lived with him, because if you can understand the roommate phase and what gets you there, or just like what to actually expect when you're living with your boyfriend or moving in with somebody for the first time, you can be more prepared for not only what to expect, but to how to essentially set yourself up for success, or how to navigate the challenges that are inevitable in your relationship, which is going to help make your relationship a lot more happier. So let's talk about the honeymoon phase. The honeymoon phase is amazing, and it's the time where you guys, decide to move in together for the very first time, and you look for apartments, and you're packing up boxes, and you get rent the U-Haul, and it's your very first day living together, and the very first movie you watch together, or the first time you go grocery shopping as a couple, the first dinner you have together. All of that is so much fun, and it almost feels like you're not aware of it, but like you're playing house, but in real life. It kind of is like that idea and the dreams you had of as like a little girl finally coming to life, that you probably wanted it for so long, especially if this is the first time you're moving out right from your parents' house. I live in Toronto, and a lot of people go from living at their parents' house to right to living with their boyfriend, and if they don't have a boyfriend, then it's a roommate, just because the cost of living here is so expensive. So if that's your position, that is even more true. If you're in the position where you're a little bit older and you're already living independently, and then you're moving in with a boyfriend at that stage, this is still true as well. And regardless of which position you're in, I think these tips or these topics I'm going to be discussing today will still be applicable to you. So the honeymoon phase, it was so amazing. It involves things like being super excited to cook. So you might find yourself being so passionate because you finally have a kitchen to yourself, and you have your own fridge, and you can go grocery shopping and buy whatever you want, and you just really just dive into being the best chef ever. Or you could have a gym, like me, I live in a condo, and you go super into like waking up at 5 a.m. and being that girl and working out every single day. And it's an amazing feeling. And I remember looking back at that, the first 3 months of living here, thinking that I was really redefining my entire life. And in a lot of ways I was. And I also remember thinking of even like the mundane tasks, like doing chores was a privilege, because I just was so excited to have my own space, that doing those like everyday tasks that people really dislike doing felt like such a blessing to me. But then what happens is the shift. The shift happens when you're home, when you move in with your partner, or even if you're living alone, it starts to become more like home, which is a great thing. And I remember I could not wait until this place, which is the first apartment I'm still living in, felt more like home to me. And when it does, it's amazing because it's comfortable, but that's when those exciting tasks like I talked about before, like the chores, like the cooking, like the grocery shopping, or even watching TV, like it becomes less exciting and less like first with your partner, and just more like everyday tasks. You kind of take that for granted. It's kind of like the feeling of when you used to go on a vacation with your boyfriend and you were so excited to get to like sleep in the same bed as them, or spend a lot of uninterrupted time with them, and you looked forward to that. So when you thought about, moving in with this person, that's how you kind of think it's gonna be. I feel like moving in with your boyfriend is so romanticized online, and a lot of that is true. Like the dancing in the kitchen, it can be true, and it is is true for Zachary and I, or that like the really romantic love. And that is totally an aspect of moving in with your boyfriend. But there's a lot of things that people don't talk about, and I think they need to be, because it doesn't mean you're in a bad place when you feel the shift, but if anything, it just means that you have grown to the point in a relationship where you're really comfortable with each other, which can be a beautiful thing. Once you start feeling comfortable with each other, you feel a deeper bond than you ever feel before you lived with this person. I love Zach, and back then before I lived with him, I really loved him as well, obviously, or I wouldn't have moved in with him. But now, after living with him for almost a year, I feel like I know him on a completely different level. There's things that you just don't understand about a person until you spend every single day with them and literally like wake up next to them, go to bed next to them, like start and end your day together for a year or plus, that you really uncovers a lot. And that's a beautiful thing, because you get to know someone on such a deep level that I say it feels like they become family. But that is the part of this topic that I would like to chat about, that's called essentially the roommate phase. And once you get comfortable and your romantic love starts turning into a love that feels like family, which is beautiful because it means you care about that person so much that they become such a important aspect of your life. But just like we do often when we're living with our parents, we can take them for granted. Now, when you're a teenager and you took your parents for granted, and I'm sure when you move out on your own, you will look back on it being like, why? Oh my gosh, I miss having someone to cook my dinner and do my laundry every day. But that feeling can often translate into your relationship, and it affects it in a weird way because your boyfriend is not like your parents. He's your romantic partner. So when your romantic partner starts feeling like your family or like your roommate, because obviously you can't be romantic, you can't be on all of the time, it causes a lot of tension and just a little bit of insecurity too. I started feeling the shift when I was longing for alone time, and I felt really, really guilty about it because I thought, like, who am I to just wish that I could watch my own girly movie in the bed alone and not want to invite my boyfriend? Like, I felt bad about that. I'm like, I really should always be asking him to do things together, because we're living together. He's my boyfriend. I'm supposed to want to spend all of this time with him. And I found myself feeling really guilty that I was longing to just be alone at some points, just recuperate and just recharge myself without being around someone all the time. Me as a person, I have always been I'm like an extroverted introvert. I love people and I love talking to people, but I need that time alone to just recharge myself. And my boyfriend was one of the few people where I didn't feel the need to have to step away from, and I could actually spend long periods of time with him where I felt uplifted. I felt genuinely comfortable with him, even more so than I would around my actual family members, which is why I made the decision to move in with him, and obviously why I see my boyfriend as a long-term life partner, which is great. But the shift was this person who I still think of that way. I started feeling the need to have alone time, and I felt guilty about it. So I'm here to tell you that what I've learned along the way is not only should you not feel guilty about taking time alone for self-care, but it is an absolute must in any relationship. I feel like in order to have a successful, healthy relationship, you need to really be taking care of you. Not only is that going to be beneficial to you because you can take time to relax, you can take time to do the activities you want to do and make time for yourself, but it benefits your boyfriend as well because you feel a lot less resentful because you're taking the time to relax, you're doing the things you want. So when you have to do those everyday mundane chores or tasks, you don't resent your partner because you feel like you have no time for yourself, which can contribute to a lot of arguments, but your partner likes to see you relax. I find that Zach loves to see me enjoying my time, and he's not offended when I want to take a night away with the girls or want to go watch a movie alone in my bed, or our bed. I guess he actually likes it because that's time for him to do his own thing, and he wants to do his own thing too, and that's okay. So when you move in with your boyfriend, or if you are finding yourself when you currently live with your boyfriend or your husband. I'm sure the people who are married probably are already known these tips because they've been together with someone for a lot longer than I have. But that is okay. And it's a must. It's going to help, like, taking time for yourself. It's going to help your relationship in so many ways. It's not something to feel guilty about. It's actually something you should be prioritizing. So prioritize your self-care, prioritize your own hobbies, take time for you, because that's going to be what allows you to not lose yourself as you live with your boyfriend. It's going to allow you to remain you and just you as an individual and uplift yourself and recharge yourself so you can be that amazing, fun, exciting girlfriend that he's going to want to come home to every day. Another thing I want to talk about was the shift that I noticed was the pressure to be romantic all of the time. When you are not living with your boyfriend, you're usually seeing them on times when you're not working, on times when you are looking nice, on times when you're excited to see them. And the times where you came home from work and you were stressed out, or you didn't sleep all night and you were exhausted, or you were hungover, or going to bed with your zit cream on your face, like they didn't get to see that. You essentially could be like the best version of you. And rather if that was like intentional or not, it happens. You know, personally, when I would see Zachary and I when I was living at my parents' house, I would only see him on the weekends. And that meant I was happy and relaxed and excited for the most part on the weekends because it was the weekends. And he never really got to see my after work routine until we lived with each other, and vice versa. And that was something when after the honeymoon phase was done, we felt ourselves wanting to go back into our old after work routines, which we spent years establishing. And it felt weird to do that because now you're coming home to somebody else. And it's hard to essentially like mix your routines together, and it can feel like a unspoken pressure of trying to be on or romantic all of the time, and it's impossible. Like 24/7, you can't always look sexy, you can't always have candles lit and be going on date nights every single night. Like it's just not sustainable, and that's something that you should be prepared for. Or if you're already living with a person, just essentially coming to terms with like it's okay to not always be on or not always feel romantic. With that being said, it's something that you should prioritize. And before I get into how you can prioritize this, I'm going to talk about what happens when you don't. And this is something that happens to a lot of couples where, you know, they get into routine, it stops being exciting because it just becomes your normal everyday life, and it can feel hard because often you feel a shift where you are so used to living with that person that you care about that it starts to become more like a roommate scenario where you kind of take them for granted, just like how you did with your parents, where you used to be a teenager and you'd come home from work or from school and say, like they would ask you how your day was, and you would say, oh yeah, it's okay, because like you were so mentally exhausted or just didn't want to open up to them, or for whatever reason that like you didn't want to give them the time of day. I find that like us as humans can often revert back to like that mentality with our partners, and if we don't put in a conscious effort to maintain those conversations or really like reach out to each other and openly communicate, it can lead to the roommate phase. You know, life starts to get real and bad habits start to form the longer you live with your boyfriend. And those bad habits could be things like, you know, at the first we would go and light candles at dinner and we would set the placemats up, and I'd be so excited to set the table and he would be so excited to cook a new recipe. And then after years of doing that, cooking gets a lot. It takes a long time. And I don't really need to take out the fancy candles. And you romanticize it a little bit less. And then that turns into, you know, scrolling on your phone and having silent dinners, the dreaded silent dinners that I see being talked about on TikTok. And it happens. It really can, especially I find on work nights when you are both exhausted, you just want a little bit of alone time and you just want to eat your dinner as fast as you can and go and do whatever like activity you were thinking about or your checklist in your head. But that is something that contributes to the feeling of the roommate stage, because before, when you take that time to have dinner with that person and connect, now you feel like a bit of a disconnect because you're literally not talking to them or you're distracted from your partner, and that can lead to a lot of issues. Even night routines. Think about you going on vacation with your boyfriend. You know, you're excited, you're happy, you feel so in love, you go to bed together and you cuddle, and it's just the most amazing feeling in the world. And you think like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be nice? Like that Beach Boys song. And now, you know, well, as your relationship progresses and you live with that person, that night routine becomes like an every night thing, and it's less special. So you often may find yourself, you know, I'll be reading in bed in one room and he'll be in the living room scrolling on his phone. You go to bed at different times, and that's just reality. It's normal. Like, two people can't always want to go to bed at the same time or be tired at the exact same time. You can't expect that of yourself, but it's something that like you didn't consider, like those little things in life. You don't, especially before you move in with your boyfriend, like you don't think about how that could impact you like mentally until it kind of does. Like it's those like little slow things or the little small things packing on top of each other that I think contributes to like the downfall or like the roommate phase. And in any relationship, from my experience, my own experience my friends, watching both of our parents who are still in successful relationships, both for Zachary and I's parents are still married, we've seen this happen where, you know, obviously like life, it gets really, really good. It's really, really high. You feel so romantic. You feel so in love. And then you start taking each other for granted, and maybe you lose some of those really good habits unintentionally. Usually it's always unintentionally. And then you end up in a slump, just like you would like in your own personal life as well. So the slump is difficult, and now we're going to talk about how to get over the slump, or how you can do your best to avoid the slump. And if you're in the slump, how in the heck to get out of it. So this slump is now being talked about online, especially on TikTok, as the roommate phase. So as I discussed earlier in this podcast, the roommate phase is the stage of a relationship where you are living with your boyfriend or your partner, and you are so excited about it, and everything's going great, and then all of a sudden you feel this shift, and you stop communicating with each other as much. You stop being as romantic as you used to, or as you stop flirting with each other because you're now living with someone for so long. Like, you take each other for granted, and it really does start to feel like the other person is a roommate. But sometimes we do take them for granted, especially when you live with them, and it's not until you move out on your own then you realize, oh my God, my mom and dad did so much for us. Or you think of, oh my God, like I am never going to live with my sister again. Like, that stage of my life is over. Like, you don't think about that until you leave. And it's kind of the same thing where like that relationship you used to have with your family when you're living with them now translates into the relationship you have with your partner. And it's like not an experience that you can't really understand until you are finally in it. So I'm here to say the roommate phase is normal. The roommate phase sucks. The roommate phase is like, you think that, oh my, you're nothing, you wish you could have been prepared for it, but I'm here to tell you that you can absolutely get out of it, and you honestly probably will be in it again, especially if you have a long-term relationship. But doesn't mean you're not happy with each other. It doesn't mean you don't love each other, but there's things you can do to pull yourself out of that roommate phase, or avoid it, or make it less hard, and I'm going to talk about the tips. So the bad habits I talked about before lead you into a slump. It leads you into feeling less romantic, feeling less cherished, feeling less important, or just like you feel a desire to want to go back and revert to your early stage of your relationship, and you don't know what went wrong or what to do. And my biggest tip is, honestly, you feel like you want, to go back to what you used to be, or back to like before you moved in with each other, like that romance, that feeling. And I say, do it. Go back to the basics. The main problem is not you guys as a couple often. It's often just the fact that you forgot the basics and you're not treating each other like a girlfriend or like a boyfriend. You're treating each other like roommates. One of the very important aspects of my relationship, or our relationship to me, is communicating with each other. And that starts the second they leave for work and the second that they come home. And regardless of what time you guys get home from work or your different schedules, you should always tell somebody that you care about, even if it's not even your boyfriend, like, hi, good morning, I love you, blah, 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 have a good day, and send them off. Or I work from home, so that's why I'm referring it to as me staying in the home. But say if I was going into the office, like, you just say goodbye, and when you come back at the end of the day, you greet them. Like, that message is so important. Greeting each other is really important. My boyfriend will tell me before he leaves from work every single day, and he's missed it once in a year. Before he leaves from work, no matter what I'm doing, if I'm in the shower, if I'm doing my makeup, or if I'm still sleeping, he'll come in and say, like, hi, baby, like, have a good day, good morning, I'm gonna miss you, like have a good day at work, bye, I'm leaving now, like type of thing. And that's nice because it's that connection where it's not just like two ships passing in the night, but it's two people working together. Like you feel more connected to that person. As I know it sounds something as small as, hey, I'm about to leave for work, have a good day, or hey, I'm home from work, how was your day? Those things are so important to really avoid feeling like two ships passing in the night. So when your boyfriend leaves for work or when you guys get home, make sure to take a few seconds to communicate with each other, or at least acknowledge each other's presence. That is a great way to avoid the roommate phase, because when it gets to the point where you're leaving and you're coming and going as you please without even really addressing your partner, like that I think can feel hurtful, and you feel like that could contribute to like a less romantic, happy relationship. Okay, the next most important thing is flirt with each other. And I know, especially if you are currently in the roommate phase of your relationship, this can feel awkward. But if you are not and you're watching this video before you move in with your boyfriend, never stop flirting. And this is important because when you see each other every single day, life becomes normal and you often forget to flirt, but it is so important. As you can start as, it could be as small as, texting your boyfriend when he's at work, I miss you. And that's a great way, especially if you're already in the roommate phase and you're having a little bit of challenges, like a good way to open up the doors to, going on going upwards into like achieving a happy relationship or getting your relationship back to where it was. Just as simple as, I miss you, I love you, I'm so excited to do X, Y, and Z with you. That is really nice, and it's really nice to be appreciated. The things like when, for instance, you might get annoyed at your partner for their bad habits that you will pick up on the longer you live with them. Instead of nitpicking all of the bad habits or the bad things you see, try to reframe your mindset to say, okay, he leaves his socks all over everywhere, but he always does the grocery shopping and cooks dinner for me often. And that is something that is so amazing. It really helps me out. So instead of like when you find yourself complaining about the bad aspects of him, keep yourself accountable and think about all the good things he does as well. And that's not to say that you can't get upset when they do something wrong, as they would with you, but sometimes you have to decide when is it worth the argument. And that can be something that can get you out of the roommate phase. Just, the ability to keep yourself from nitpicking that partner is so important. And just remind yourself why you're with them and the things that they're doing right. It's like, don't sweat the small stuff, learn what is important and learn what's not. Not every single thing has to be turned into an argument. Like, hit unsubscribe. You're unsubscribing from the argument. Sometimes it's just not necessary and it's really small and it's literally not worth you spending the whole time talking about, someone leaving dirty socks on the floor. The little things when you see that they do something right, like they put away the dishes, like they unload the dishwasher, or they make the bed, or they do the laundry. Words of affirmation are so important, or just like paying attention to the things that they're doing right and telling them about that. For instance, if you notice that your boyfriend unloaded the dishwasher when it was your turn to do it, or when you said you were going to do it, that's something really nice. It's something so small that some people, especially after a long time living together, you might not pay attention to, but paying attention to the good things that your boyfriend does and always telling them that you appreciate that will help your relationship. It's going to make him feel excited that you acknowledged it. It's going to make him want to do it more often because he's going to want to please you, and it's going to contribute to just you being happier with him and how you view him and just your relationship as a whole. Okay, now let's talk about establishing good habits. Establishing the good habits and making an effort to maintain these good habits are so important for preventing the roommate stage. Now let me tell you the habits that I currently do. So there's a few habits that Zachary and I established and put into place to make sure that we feel connected, we feel like we're being romantic, and we avoid essentially the roommate phase. And these habits were established after we were in it. We found ourselves in it. We didn't really know what it was. And then after a lot of communication, we were able to figure out how to avoid it and how to make each other both feel good, feel connected, feel romantic, but also enjoy our alone time as well. So we didn't feel like two passion ships in the night. And the number number one thing that I would suggest to avoid the roommate phase would be make time for each other that's sustainable. Obviously, you can't go on a date night every single night. Like, we are working adults. That is not only not affordable, but nobody has the time to do that. But things as simple as always saying goodbye and hello to each other when you leave. Dinner times, it's a no phone zone, no TV. We light a candle, we romanticize that small moment of the day, and we spend that dinner as a time to connect with each other and to laugh. And during that dinner, we don't talk about stressful things. We don't talk about what bills need to be paid or what's going on, and it's a negative way, but we just use it to really just connect with each other as a positive light. And going back to what I originally said about giving him words of affirmation or really like telling him the things that he's doing right, that's a great time to do it. That's a time where we're often will address that about the things that we're happy with or happy with each other, or the trips we're excited to plan or go on. And that is a beneficial thing that helps us feel connected and excited about our future. Another thing that is new is night routines. So often it feels, when you go, going back to what I said earlier, when you go on trips with your boyfriend before you live with each other, you'd be so excited to go to bed together at night. But when you live with each other, it's just not realistic that you are going to be tired at that, the same time as the other person. And that kind of feels weird to go, especially if you're the person that goes to sleep first, just fall asleep alone. It's kind of sad. So that's something that we were like, how do we have or channel in that romantic feeling of the beginning stage of our relationship before, right when we moved in together into everyday life. And what we do is we set aside time, maybe we don't set exact adult bedtime, but at some point between 10 or 11, we'll cuddle with each other just for 20 minutes, not even, whether it's we watching a show or we're just silent and cuddling, or we talk about our day. We just take 20 minutes every night to just really connect with each other in that aspect, just so we have that a little bit of that romance or that with the physical touch. And that's really, really important, because if you get into the habit of, scrolling on your phones every single night before going to bed and not communicating, or falling asleep in different rooms, which was a problem because or falling asleep in different rooms per se, because if I'm watching TV in one room and he's scrolling on his phone in the other room, at 12 o'clock in the morning, you might fall asleep, and that's sad, and you don't want that to happen. You want to, wake up next to your partner every single day. So doing things like that can be very beneficial to get you out of the roommate stage as well. Planning trips is another thing that I think is great for getting you out of the roommate stage, or avoiding it. Sometimes, you need to be reminded why you are together, and together in terms of an actual romantic love. And I think there's nothing better than going on a trip with somebody to reconnect and really remember why you are together, and that fun, easy romance love. Zachary and I go to the same cabin every single year close to our anniversary, and we take that time to really just reflect on the year of us as a couple. And I'm so excited. We're about to go again soon, and it's crazy because last time we went on that trip, we were talking about living together, and we had no idea what the year ahead was going to bring. And now when we go on that trip, we'll spend the time, we always take the time to sit down, have a really nice dinner, and talk about our relationship and what we're happy with and what we see happening within the next year to come. And I'm so excited for that conversation. It's going to be crazy coming back after years of not living together. And this is the first year where I really feel such a deeper connection to him. And I'm looking forward to that. So if you find yourself in the roommate stage and you have a hard time getting out of it, book a trip. It doesn't have to be a big cabin trip, or it doesn't have to be a 1 week all-inclusive vacation. Go to a hotel room for a night. Or if you are really, really trying to save, make a hotel room in your home. Make a fort, make a spa night, make little tickets to movies, or do something like that in your own place. Just make a vacation, or better yet, make some Hawaiian drinks, get a little Hawaiian skirt, make a little vacation at home, maybe get a blow up pool, be careful if you're putting the pool inside, but have some fun, play some tropical music and dance around, and that feels weird, especially if you're arguing with your partner, to do the flirt or to do things like that. It feels awkward and you don't want to do it, especially if like you're mad at them for whatever reason. But I'm telling you, sometimes it's worth it. Send that little text message. Say, I miss you. Say, I miss you. What's your connect? I have a crazy idea. Are you up for it? And sometimes that's what you need to get yourself out of the slump or the roommate phase. And it feels so awkward to do that at first, but that is going to be what starts the upwards turn of like back of you getting out of that slump or that roommate phase. Date nights. Date nights is another thing that I think are really important for couples living together or just couples in general. But I find once you start living together, you forget to date each other because you see each other all the time. When before, when you weren't living together, you would see each other when you'd go on dates. So date night is very important to Zachary and I. We do it once a week, and we don't go out for dinner. We don't spend money necessarily once a week, but we'll do a board game night or we'll do a movie night. We'll do something that where it's like an intentional date night, not just like us watching TV at the end of the day, but us sitting down and saying, this is a date where you're conscious. Like you both know it's a date. You say, it's not just like, hey, want to play Connect 4? It's, hey, let's have a board game and date night. You light the candle, you set the mood, you be intentional. You will be surprised what a little bit of intention and effort does for your relationship. You know, take that extra time to be in that moment and to just like show each other that you're trying. And sometimes that's all you need. All us women really want is effort. Let's be real. Light a candle, draw us a bubble bath. Imagine like that is something we have here. Men, if you are listening to this, go into the bathtub, take out that bubble bath that she has, and I know she does have it somewhere. If not, use freaking body wash. It's just the Bath and Body Works body wash. Make a little bubble bath up, light a single candle, pour a glass of wine, surprise her when she gets home. Man, wouldn't that be nice, right? Like, it's just the little things like that would take like 5 minutes. And I know that's probably why you're here being like, yeah, of course, that's what I want. Like, why can't my boyfriend do this? Like, put it on his For You page. Like, I wish it would. If you are hearing this as a man, please go do this. I swear it's going to be beneficial for you too. But we can do that for our boyfriends as well. It's the concept of like doing things, putting an effort for somebody else. When you are excited and when you are happy and when you are like ready to just essentially open up and give him love, I feel like he is more receptive of that, and then he's more likely to give that back to you. Sometimes when we feel that shift as women, especially when we feel like we're going to go into that roommate phase, we pull back or we start looking for reasons that confirm our theories that our relationship isn't as happy as we want it to be. So we'll look at the bad things, we'll pay attention to the bad things, but we won't bring light to the good. And that is what causes it to get worse. When you find yourself in the roommate phase, you need to take a step back and remind yourself of why you love that person. Make an effort to be romantic. Even if you're annoyed that they aren't, try to show them that you love them. Try to be happy. Try to enjoy life. And if they see you in that aspect, I feel like they're gonna mirror your behavior, and that is what is gonna be able to get you out of that. Even if you are trying to talk to them and that is not working, sometimes just mirroring the behavior that you want out of your relationship is enough to revive it and bring it back to like the good times. And I know that sounds intense. The roommate phase often is not this horrible thing where you think you're gonna break up. It wasn't for Zachary and I, but I did feel it, and I sometimes still do. And so does Zachary. And when that happens, I feel like, of course, we're open to communicating. But for someone who's not, and I've heard these stories before, sometimes just you putting in the effort and you trying to take a step back and having me time for you, do some self-care, love yourself, spend some time with your friends, and then you're going to come back and be happy, you're going to be excited, and he's going to see that and be excited that you're happy. Because at the end of the day, I feel like men really just want us to be happy, and to us it's like, it's so easy, you just have to do this and that. Like, it seems like second nature to us, but isn't that always like that for men. And that is something that us as women have to accept. You have to love your partner for who they are. At the end of the day, you chose them, so it's not their fault. I am a firm believer of never expecting someone to change. Like, you're supposed to love that person for whom they are. And if you're with someone, or you're living with somebody, you're gonna love them for the good and the bad. And that is just a part of life. So in summary, if you find yourself in the roommate phase and you are struggling, just know that you are not alone. Many women, many couples go through the roommate stage. You can get out of it. The most important things to do are take a step back, spend it in self-care, spend it in giving yourself the love that you need. Then you're going to come out of it feeling a lot more relaxed, with an open mind, feel more a little bit level-headed to approach and tackle that roommate stage of a relationship from a good place. Start prioritizing romance, go back to the basics, and really just take time, or take those few moments out of your day for each other. And I think that is what's going to help you get out of that stage in your relationship. At the end of the day, like, this is not to say, you know, if you're about to move into someone, oh my gosh, you should be so scared, your entire relationship is going to change. I mean, it will change, but it's so good. It's so much good comes out of moving in with the right person, and someone that you genuinely love and care about. You really do feel connected on such like a deeper level that you can't explain if it's right. The last year of moving in with my boyfriend has been amazing. It has brought so much good into a relationship. It taught us a lot of lessons, but I think those lessons are really important for us to take into consideration as we go and work towards a future marriage one day. And they're things that I think a lot of women, young girlfriends will find it very helpful. So that's all for today's episode. I hope you all found it helpful. And for those of you who aren't in relationships, hopefully you could get something out of this too, because you can prepare for the future. With that being said, this is just I wanted to experiment with this episode about talking about relationships, because I have a lot of thoughts on it. But if you liked this podcast, please check me out on social at the Get Up and Glow podcast. I have TikTok, Instagram, and of course on YouTube. So if you want to watch me on there as well, we have visual and audio combined. How amazing. Please follow me on TikTok. I am trying to build a platform on there. It makes me so excited every time I see a single new follower pop up on TikTok. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm building a community of like-minded women in their 20s trying to just get up and glow and like build themselves to be the best version of them, which is amazing to see. So my TikTok is Get Up and Glow. Please follow me. I'll be so excited. Regardless, I hope you have an amazing week, you gorgeous, gorgeous girls, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Until then, bye.